How's it going, everyone? Hope you're all keeping well, and welcome back to a new RTA League Racing video and the start of a brand new season. So if you missed the end of the MX5 series, make sure you check the last two videos of that out before we get into this. They both came out pretty close together about 2 weeks ago, so you might have missed one or both of those. So yeah, both will be linked down in the description, so make sure you check those out before we start this new season, which we will be driving the Formula V cars in. So RTA partnering with Formula Vee Ireland for this championship, which is a very exciting collaboration and very excited to be a part of this season. And looking at the calendar for this one definitely makes it more exciting. Starting off this evening at Silverstone National before moving to Brands Hatch, then Donington Park, Oulton Park for round 4 before heading up north to Scotland to Knockhill, heading back down to Cadwell Park then to Snetterton Circuit before rounding out this season in a flyaway race in Japan, racing around Tsukuba. So a very British orientated calendar and season ahead of us, but all of those tracks would definitely suit this Formula V car and hopefully provide some very entertaining and fun racing, which I'm sure they will, especially with such a big grid for this season. But obviously, no standings heading into round 1, so with all the formalities out of the way, let's head into qualifying. So getting started at qualifying here now, just waiting for a few more cars to load into the pits and start going out onto the track, because slipstream is the most important thing around here during this session. And yeah, if you don't have the tow, you have pretty much no hope of getting a good lap in that will see you near the top of the grid. So on my best qualifying lap here now, heading into turn 1, pretty much flat out. Might have been a little bit of a lift because of the dirty air and the extra speed from the slipstream. We're behind Dermot Toomey here now, but there is just a train of cars ahead of us. Heading into Maggots, not going into Beckett's Chapel and onto the Hangar Straight though, continuing to turn right onto the Wellington Straight for this national circuit. And yeah, just taking our time now, waiting for the next braking zone into Lutfield and Woodcut in the slipstream, and we're going to look for the 50-meter board, braking just at the arrow sign after that, cutting in as much as we can, making sure to not get an off track though as we head into Lutfield. Then Dermot going a bit wide, we take a pretty good line there. You want to go out wide so you can cut back in, get on the power as early as you can. Again, luckily we still have the slipstream though. I'm going to take a tight line through this kink. I'm going to come across the line to set a 1 minute 10.1 to go provisionally P4. So after that, I obviously did try and set a better lap, because that lap was actually my first flying lap of the session, which you can see here, not really able to get it on that lap, just a lot of cars all over the place. And there was a lot of DRS games, some of which almost led to a couple of accidents. You can see there on the left hand side some people stopping to let cars ahead so they could get the tow, and well, obviously I also partook in the slipstream games, just going into the pits and then sitting at the end of the pit lane waiting for a few cars to come past that I could latch onto the back of, and then just at the end of the Wellington Straight pulling off into the runoff area to let a few cars go ahead, and yeah, again just try and get a good slipstream, get a couple of cars ahead so you can get a good bit of a tow. And yeah, just throughout the session you might find yourself in a nice train, but everybody just wants to get the tow, and they were pulling out of the way. But in the end then, as I mentioned, wasn't able to improve, set a 1 minute 10.053, put me in 10th place for the first qualifying session here. Just over 4 tenths off Sean McGoldrick, starting off with the first pole position of the season. Peter Brett, new to this season, in second place, and then Dylan McClemens always up towards the front, rounding out the top 3. But very close qualifying session there, top 20 you can see, just over 1.1 seconds in it. So if that has any bearing on what we can expect in these next 3 races and how close they're going to be, it'll definitely be exciting. So let's head into the first race of this new Formula V season. So as we get ready to go here, the red lights come on from P10 on the grid, building the revs to about 4,500 RPM, and the green lights go on. We drop the clutch and we get a pretty good start, pulling side by side with Sylvie Bartlett, another new driver to the grid for this season. A lot of new drivers for this one, which is great to see. And yeah, I think it was mentioned that there's over 30 registered for this one. Don't know how many actually are on the grid for this round in particular. Great numbers to see, and hopefully it'll mean we'll have pretty full grids for every round of the entire season. But we're heading on to the Wellington Straight now for the first time in race trim. Made up a couple of places on the opening lap so far, and we just managed to pull into the slipstream there of Dylan McClemens up ahead. Peter McCann on the inside and into Woodcote and Luffield. Big contact between Peter and Conor Melia. Conor sent a bit wide there, and I think we're 3 wide into Luffield, taking the wide line, which isn't great, and you can see there we were side by side with Conor and Dylan, and they just got better run there, better line, they were on the throttle quicker, take more speed, everything just better through that, and you can see how much of a gap they pulled, and it allowed, I think it's David Bartlett in the blue and white car up ahead to get ahead. Side by side then with Rory O'Shea heading into Cops turn 1. Lot of understeer there with the dirty air, so you have to take a bit of the lift in race trim. Flat out in qualifying or in clean air, but definitely not at the moment. 3 wide then heading into Maggots and on to the straight once again, and you can see just how many cars are around. And this is pretty much what was like every race for this round here at Silverstone. The slipstream is just so powerful that even if you lose a bit of time in the very few corners where you actually have to brake and worry about the line, as there's an incident up ahead, somebody sent for a spin, and because of that I think we're after getting a couple of places, carrying more momentum, people having to get checked up. Through Luffield then side by side with the other McClemens, that being Sean, who just gets ahead there, and now we're side by side with Jordan Kelly. Definitely wasn't expected to say that I was fighting with Sean McClemens and Jordan Kelly, Dylan McClemens, any of those kind of drivers in the opening round here, but as I was mentioning, the slipstream is just keeping everyone in contention, even if they are a bit off the pace. The only corners where it really matters. Peter McCann is sent for a spin there. I think he was nudged in the back by somebody. Can't even get a minute to talk about what I want to talk about here. There's just so much happening. But yeah, slipstream so powerful here that through Beckett's here onto, or Maggots onto the Wellington Straight, even if you're a bit slower there, the slipstream then just carries you along, gets you closer.
I know what you were going for there, mate.
Again here up at Woodcote and Luffield, if you don't get fully right, as long as you have the slipstream onto the National Pitch Straight, you can stay within the cars ahead. We skipped along then a lap or two because, like I mentioned, we were pretty much just side by side slipstreaming for this entire race. Into Cops then on this 5th lap. Contact there between, I think it was Sean McClemens and somebody else, so another 2 places there. Ronan Hederman, who usually does the broadcasting for Gantry TV racing this season, since there's no live streams, we managed to get past him. He was checked up by that bit of an incident. He fights us back down the inside line, but we managed to carry the speed around the outside, and luckily have a slipstream off David Bartlett. He does pull into the slipstream of Dylan McClemens, as you would expect, which means we don't get a tow. We get a bit of a side draft, and then Dylan pulls to the inside, and we get a bit of a tow off him to just try and stay ahead. And with the inside line, we're able to hold that position so far, just get ahead of Ronan. We're still side by side with David actually, and we make a big contact just with his rear wheel, which does cost us a lot of momentum there, lose a good few positions. But luckily we don't get any damage from that. I was kind of expected to have a bit of wheel damage or suspension damage, but as you can hear there, we just about got away with it, which is very lucky I think, and means that we can continue to fight up here at the front in this first race. I think it's the top 8, yeah, the top 8 in this little group here after pulling a bit away, as Sean McGoldrick, the pole sitter, gets nudged onto the grass there, heading into Maggots. Luckily he managed to not spin out or anything like that and keeps in the fight. Yeah, there's so much happening here, I can barely keep up with what's going on, and trying to cut this down is just pretty much impossible. So down in the description, just going to leave that thought for a second as we're in the middle going 3 wide at the end of the straight, and I kind of commit to it. I decided it was going to be safer to just stick with it, as up ahead there's contact between, I don't know who that is, there's another car involved, and I'm not sure who that was, came straight over my car, and by a stroke of some sort of miracle don't get any damage from that, and I really don't know how that happened. Just go look at a replay here now, looking from the back of Dylan McClemens' car, and you can see here, I don't know how I didn't get any damage for that. But I'm not going to complain. I think netcode for the first time in history maybe playing into somebody's favour and not giving them damage, when usually it does give them some sort of damage, or you know, netcode yourself. Yeah, I was just going to say, there's uncut, raw, unedited videos or footage of this race and race 2 down in the description if you want to see that, because I did cut a good bit of fighting out, which was just kind of back and forwards, side by side, kind of what was happening every lap. If you're interested in that, it is there for you. But back to the live action here now. We pass Sean McGoldrick into Maggots to take second place here. Dylan is a couple of seconds up the road in the lead, so I think the win is maybe out of the question here for this one, but we're definitely well in contention of getting at least a podium in this one, maybe a P2. And I wasn't really too interested in trying to play any slipstream games as we head on to the final lap here, so I could have stayed behind Sean to try and get the toe on the last straight, the last run along the Wellington straight, and get a pass into Upcut and Luffield. But I decided I wanted to try and get the lead if I could, and try and defend rather than try and attack. I think Sean might have been under the impression of wanting the complete opposite, because he probably could have fought me into this corner here, but he decided to back out, and we are in second place heading on to the Wellington straight, and I decide that I'm going to have to try and weave and break the toe. So we go to the right. Now we're going to jump on board with my rear view as we cut back to the left. Sean just cuts over across in front of Jordan Kelly, and don't know if he knew that Jordan was there, but the two of them are being taken out of the race as we head into the final few corners. The car behind is a lap down, so we're going to be unchallenged as we come around the final corner, coming up to the line. And after an absolutely crazy race, I'm going to come home in second place and take my first ever podium in RTA Virtual Motorsport.
Brilliant job, brilliant job.
Ring ding 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 ding.
So as you can see, pretty happy with that result, and at the start of my 5th season in RTA, finally getting to stand on the podium. Came close a few times in the IndyCar season, but it wasn't to be, and it's nice to finally get that duck off my back. Finishing in second place, just under 4 seconds off Dylan McClemens, then Conor Melia rounding out the podium. It was unfortunate that there wasn't a fight between myself, Sean and Jordan on the last lap there with that incident, but thankfully for me I wasn't involved in it and I was able to take advantage of that. See there, exclamation point beside Sean McClemens, which means he did get a penalty in that race, so 15 points taken away from his total at the end of this for an incident he had in this race. And yeah, not much else to say really, other than I think I was very lucky to get that result, to not get damage in one of the two incidents, definitely the second one. I don't know how I managed to get through that one alive, but I'm glad I did, and hopefully we can get a similar result starting from the front row of the grid in race 2. So as the lights come off for this one, before we get properly into the action, just want to mention again that the unedited version of this will be linked in the description as well. But getting back to this one, heading into turn 1. We get a pretty good start there compared to Dylan. We closed the gap pretty much on him, and on the first lap heading into the first braking zone, my thought process was that I saw how Dylan was able to create a gap in that first race, so to try and at least put him under pressure, maybe take the lead, just so he wouldn't be able to pull away and we would be able to maybe be in contention for the win in this one if it plays out similar to the previous race. I think I said something wrong there, but I'm not too sure. The brain is kind of all over the place at the moment. But heading into Woodcut and Lutfield for the first time, we had Ronan Hederman sticking his nose down the inside, so couldn't take my ideal racing line. And with the inside for Lutfield, we managed to hold on to that. Conor Melia and Ronan now side by side, and Conor is going to get my slipstream as I take my normal racing line, also to try and stay in the slipstream of Dylan, but Conor just managed to sneak down the inside there and Dylan stayed to the right, so we lost the slipstream for a little bit there. Around the outside of Compton, Conor with the inside line, the shorter line, was able to carry a bit more speed there and less distance, get ahead, and managed to fight back, trying to go around the outside then of Maggots and Beckett's onto the Wellington straight, which I'm not able to do it on this occasion. Conor gets the place. Sean McClemmons is now having a look as Conor pulled to get the toe off Dylan. Just had to hesitate there a bit because didn't want to cut across Sean's nose. And Sean just had a bit of an overlap there on my left hand side as I got up to the back of Conor, so I had to lift out of that to not run into the back of Conor, and because I didn't have anywhere to go, to the right was the grass, to the left was Sean, so unfortunate there. We didn't lose any more positions, only to Sean, and we hold on to 4th place at the end of lap 2. Skip ahead then to the start of lap 3. Once again the slipstream is keeping us in it here as we go 3 wide on the run into Maggots and Beckett's, and I didn't really know where to go there because I wasn't 100% sure where the cars were on my left hand side. I didn't want to run into the back of the car that was ahead, so took to the grass just to not crash into anybody, and looked like we managed to keep it safe. Going to jump on board here with Dylan McClemmons as we head down the Wellington straight on this 4th lap, and you can see there just how tight it was. Dylan backed out of it, so we weren't 3 wide into this corner, and you can see up ahead, I can't remember why I'm showing this now, but I think it was just to show how close everything was. We eventually fall back into line around Lutfield, and so we'd all get the slipstream along this National Pit Straight. Jumping back on board with myself then. A lap later into Lutfield, we have a look down the inside of Conor, and we just make a small bit of contact with his rear right tyre, and just had a bit of understeer then, just tapping the back of him. Luckily I was able to back out of it quick enough that there wasn't any major contact, and I was really just worried about spinning Conor around there. I never want to end somebody's race, especially when it leads to a penalty for myself. But we were on board with myself, then jumping on board with Sean as we made it around the outside of him and Dylan. It was a McClemmons 1-2, and my thought was if I can just get in between them or ahead of them, they wouldn't be able to work together as well and try and pull away from the pack, if that's even possible around here in these cars. So managed to get the move done there, taking the lead for the first time in this series for this season. Hopefully it won't be the last. I think we're 3 wide, at least 2 wide heading into Lutfield. Have to take the long way around. Sean just there on my right hand side, so I think we're just 2 wide. And you can see here now what I mean by the McClemmonses working together. Obviously Sean's going to take that line, it's the racing line, but it does mean that Dylan got the toe and I was just up at the creek without a paddle pretty much, not having that extra speed. But Conor Melia also got the toe from that, and he managed to go from P4 up into the lead between the exit of the final corner and the exit of the first corner on the next lap. It was a 4-horse race. Ronan was involved. I think he had a bit of a spin or an incident. He dropped back. Oliver fighting has allowed Campbell to catch up, so now it is a 5-way battle for the lead with now just under a minute left in this race, so heading on to the final lap. Find myself in 5th, but that doesn't mean that we can't make our way up a couple of positions and maybe even into first place. Through turn 1 we get a better run than Camto. I'm going to go for the move straight away. Luckily Dylan pulls to the left hand side and we're able to get a bit of a toe off of him, so we're ahead of Camto heading into the braking zone for Maggots and Beckett's onto the Wellington straight, and we are in 4th place, and as you can see well within slipstream range. Connor just getting caught out there, Dylan pulling alongside him and he doesn't get the toe off of Sean. Sean then pulls to the inside line to defend, and we're 3 wide heading into the final braking zone of this lap, and that means that I don't really have anywhere to go, so I pull out wide to then cut into the racing line in case there is any contact. And we now jump on board with Campbell because he was able to nip down by inside through Luffield as I took the outside line, and we're going to be side by side on the run to the line. Switching back to my POV, luckily we have a slipstream off Connor, but Campbell has the inside line, the shorter distance, so who's going to make it into 4th place as we cross the line? We just about managed to get 4th place there in a very close finish. And as you can see there, just 3.7 separating the top 5, 200ths of a second between myself and Campto, and then if you look at those gaps, Sean had a pretty convincing win really, over 2/10. Big gap in these races by the looks of it. But yeah, Sean coming out on top in a McClemens 1-2, Connor then on the podium, and myself just missing out with Campto in 5th place. And have to say it was probably the most fun race I've had in a long time there, just so close and everybody giving each other room, being very respectful, but also respectful hard racing is all you can really ask for in any race really, and it's always great when you get that, especially with drivers of this quality that you can trust to have those clean and fair battles with. But that's 2 races down here at Silverstone. Heading into the 3rd one, if you're new here to RTA, top 8 are reversed, so I'll be starting the final race in P5, which is further up than I started the first race, and we ended up on the podium, so definitely hoping to try and repeat that here again for the final time in Silverstone. So for the final time here for round 1, the red lights are on and the green lights come on, as I think that was Ryan Evan Johnson saying "oh balls," so I'm guessing a bit of a jump start there from him maybe, or something not going quite right, but it's not for us to worry about at the moment anyway. Heading through turn 1, get a pretty decent start, probably not as good as my previous 2. We're not making any positions just yet. Going around the outside of Maggots and Beckett's, trying to get a move on Campto, but unfortunately don't quite have the grip. We do get past Dara Halley, I think it is just about. Connor Mealy was challenging me, trying to give Campto a bit of a bump draft there because I didn't have anywhere else to go. Heading into a woodcut inside line. The inside was definitely the line I was more comfortable in around this corner. It just didn't feel like I had much confidence around the outside. Anytime I was on the outside I was getting overtaken. At least on the inside I had some hope of trying to hold on to position or make a position, but wasn't able to on this occasion. It didn't help us stay side by side with Connor Mealy, but up ahead the boys are staying to the right hand side, so don't have as much of a toll. A little one off the Campbell. I think we're 3 wide heading into Cops. I am on the outside, so I decided to just take to the runoff area, take the off track to stay alive and carry as much momentum as I can. Didn't really work, as we're 3 wide heading into Maggots and Beckett's with Peter McCann and I think it's Dylan McClemens. Honestly not too sure. There's so many cars around that even looking at the relatives I don't know who it is I'm actually side by side with, who's right ahead, who's right behind. It's just complete chaos around here tonight. I have to say it's very enjoyable, very entertaining. Heading down the straight then, decided to not go for the slipstream for a little bit there, just wanted the inside line, and you can see there taking the inside line. We're now 2 or 3 wide again. We're jumping on onboard camera. Campto is on our inside and just a little bit of contact there between our front wheels. I think Camto just got on the throttle a little bit earlier than I did. Get a bit of damage on our midsection. But yeah, I think Camto just got on the throttle a bit earlier than I did, and it caused our wheels to interlock, and unfortunately I came out the worst of that racing incident there. Oh, we dropped down to, I think it's P19. A couple of laps later then, I think Emma was after having a bit of an incident as well. We're side by side heading into cops as we make up that position, just about getting ahead on the exit of turn 1, but Emma still has a bit of an overlap, and she seems to be pulling up alongside us, even though I had a bit of a slipstream, so that made me think that the little bit of midsection damage from that incident with Camto has affected my top speed a small bit. Don't get the greatest exit or line onto this straight. It does allow Emma to get a very nice switch back and carry a bit more momentum on the run down the Wellington straight as we head into the braking zone. She's nearly fully clear, but we just have a little bit of an overlap, and with the inside line we're just about not able to challenge, and just on the exit bump into the back of Emma and then heading into Lovefield. Jamal just sends it in pretty much and then sends it back across the track in front of somebody else, and yeah, all I'm going to say is you kind of learn to expect these things and you're not shocked anymore. But in my opinion, there was no way that Jamal wasn't going to make contact with me there, just braking way too late and then locking the brakes because of that and spinning into me. It is what it is. We have to keep going with, I think, a little bit more damage now, as the previous lap, or previous clip anyway, we were fighting with Ryan Kuhn, who was on pole position for this race, so he's had some sort of issues as well. We were fighting him, but there was a car spun on the apex, so I had to back out of that one. And now, as we're fighting, there's also Robert Fleming up ahead, who has just disappeared, which is an unfortunate timing because him disappearing means we didn't get any slipstream, and then as soon as we pull into the slipstream he blinks back into existence. But as I was trying to say, once again getting interrupted by the action. Myself and Ryan, who are getting very close there, trying to fight, while Jamal and I think Robert Fleming were also fighting as backmarker. They were still fighting for position, but you can't blame them for continuing their own fight even if you are getting in our way there. Really too much you can do about that. Everyone's entitled to the race. But myself and Ryan fighting has allowed the other Ryan to catch up, as we're jumping on board with him here, and again into Lovefield, a little bit of contact, and once again I come out the worst on that, going for a spin and losing more laps.
Damage on the front end. You've got damage in the midsection.
Not more laps, more time and more positions, and this is just a still frame from that contact, and you can see there wasn't actually any contact, so just an unfortunate netcode incident there, as we're now side by side with David Bartlett for P19. Through turn 1 I was on 14 warning for incident points, and I completely forgot really. During that move I said I was going to just commit to it and take the off track, forgetting that one more total to 50 was going to give me a drive through, which we served on the start of the final lap, and then we come across the line after that to finish a very eventful race for other reasons than the first two in P18. And as you can see there, losing 13 places from where I started and ending up pretty much 46 seconds off pole position in qualifying. Sean McGoldrick finally getting back to the front to take the win in race 3. Sean McClemens and Dylan McClemens, ever consistent, getting on the podium once again. Conor Mealy in P4, and again, as in the first race, you see an exclamation point there beside Sylvie Bartlett. He's also after getting a penalty in this race for some kind of an incident. But yeah, even after that very disappointing race 3, it was definitely my best round in RTA since I've joined, and we're going to take a look at the standings now. As you can see, I find myself in the very lofty heights for me of P4, 58 points, which I do actually think is my best ever round result in RTA. So not a bad way to start the season. Obviously, I am under no illusions that I am now one of the front runners in this league. I think I just had good consistency here around Silverstone and allowed me to stay in the slipstream, and that just kept me up at the front. But obviously now this does prove to myself that I do have the capability to fight at the front and the confidence to do so when I find myself in those positions, which hopefully I'll find myself in a few more times throughout this season. Hopefully a few more podiums, maybe a win if things fall my way. But yeah, even if I can have 60% of this performance for the rest of the season, I think it'll be a pretty good one for me. And usually I say that I'm going to try and aim for a top 10, but I think I'm going to up the expectations and the target for this season. I'm going to try and aim for top 8 come the flag of race 3 in six. But that is it for this very eventful round 1 of the RTA Formula Vee Ireland Virtual Championship. If you did enjoy, make sure you leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss any videos from the rest of this season. But until then, thanks for watching and see you then.